All right, good evening, everyone. I'll call this Committee of Adjustment hearing to order. Just before we get started tonight, I will go through the committee's procedures for this evening. We have 5 applications for 5 properties this evening that we're going to be addressing. Just a little bit of housekeeping rules. If you have cell phones, if you could put them on mute or turn them off, that would be appreciated. And if you do come up to speak, please address any questions through the chair and not directly to the person that you're asking the question of. The first thing that we will go through once we get into it will be asked for any conflicts of interest with any of the committee members on any of the agenda application items this evening, followed by a request of any deferrals or withdrawals of applications from the applicant. For those that will be coming in electronically, I will ask them the first thing when they come into the meeting. The applicant or the agent for the applicant will then be asked to come forward. They can go to the podium on the right. There's a little red button there to turn on the microphone, and they can add any additional comments that they wish to at that time. Members of the committee will then have an opportunity to ask the applicant any questions that they might have, and then followed by members of the public. Members of the public that wish to speak to an application will be asked to come forward, state their names and addresses for the record. Again, they will go to the podium on the side. Try to limit their comments to 10 minutes and must ask all questions or comments that pertain to that particular application in that time frame. Persons making a presentation may not necessarily be allowed to return again to speak to the same application. Following all comments, the applicant will be afforded some closing comments if they desire, and then the committee will then present a decision in the form of a motion. The motion will be discussed and voted upon. If a vote is tied, the motion will be defeated and a new motion will be made. If a motion is defeated, new motions will be made until we have a decision, so that a decision is reached. Notices of decision will only be provided to those persons that leave their name and addresses in writing with the Secretary Treasurer. There's a sign-in sheet for anyone that's other than an applicant on there. Applicants will get notice automatically, and it should. And a sign-in sheet for there. And anyone that's at home can email Samantha Young at samantha.yeung@portcolborne.com right after the meeting, or you can call 905-835-2600 extension 204 and leave a message. It should also be noted that in order to be kept advised of any possible local planning appeal tribunal hearings, persons must request and be sent a copy of the committee's decision on an application. So with that, I will ask if there's any conflicts of interest between Eric or Donna. Not seeing any. With that, we don't have any requests for deferrals or withdrawals at this time. Very good. So with that, Madam Secretary, the first application, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Our first application for tonight is B24-22-PC. In the matter of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, CP 13, Section 53(1), and in the matter of the lands legally known as Concession 2, Part Lot 29 in the City of Port Colborne, located in the First Density Residential Zone and Residential Development Zone, municipally known as 1053 Steel Street. And in the matter of an application by the agent Stephen Bedford on behalf of the owner 2513724 Ontario Inc. for consent for the purpose of creating a new lot. The subject parcels are shown as parts 1 and 2 on the proposed sketch, where part 2 is to be severed for future residential use and part 1 is to be retained for existing residential use. A notice was circulated to the public on October 25th and required agencies on October 14th, 2022. As of today, the following comments have been received. No comments from the public. The fire department has no objection to the proposed application. The drainage superintendent has no objection to the application. Engineering notes a master lot grading plan is required to ensure the lots will drain independently. A municipal consent permit will be required for the construction of a new entrance. Given the information in the planning report, planning staff recommend application B24-22-PC be granted, subject to the following conditions. 1. That the applicant provides the Secretary Treasurer with the deeds in triplicate for the conveyance of the subject parcel or a registrable legal description of the subject parcel, together with a paper copy and electronic copy of the deposited reference plan, if applicable. and for use in the issuance of the certificate of consent. 2, that a final certification fee of $216 payable to the City of Port Colborne is submitted to the Secretary Treasurer. 3, that the applicants sign the City of Port Colborne's standard memorandum of understanding explaining that development charges and cash in lieu of the dedication of land for park purposes based on an appraisal at the expense of the applicant, wherein the value of the land is to be determined as of the day before the issuance of a building permit, is required prior to the issuance of a building permit pursuant to the Section 42 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, as amended. And 4, that a master lot grading plan be submitted to the satisfaction of the Public Works Department. The plan must demonstrate that each parcel will drain independently of one another. In the event that they do not, a mutual agreement drain is suggested. 5, that all conditions of consent be completed by November 9th, 2024. For the following reasons. 1, the application is consistent with the provincial policy statement and conforms to the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe, the regional official plan, the City of Port Colborne official plan, and will also comply with the provisions of the zoning bylaw 6575-3018 as amended. And that concludes the correspondence of this application.
Thank you. And I believe the agent for the applicant is online.
Yeah.
Still on mute. Technology is great when it works.
I did send the link to them. I sent it this morning.
It must be there. I see them on your screen. During the meeting, I see them on your screen.
Yeah, he's just not unmuting or talking. What would the procedure be?
What we can do is we can adjourn and see if they come back in before the end, and then we'll just skip to the next one. That one. Okay, as if the applicant can hear us, they've been brought into the meeting electronically, but they're just not responding at the moment. So what I'll do is I'll ask if committee members are okay. We'll adjourn this particular application for a little bit, and we'll see if we can get them back into the meeting before the end of the meeting, and then we'll move to the next application if that works for you guys. So we'll do that. So we'll adjourn this application temporarily until we can get them online, and maybe you can message them that and see if they can message you back at least.
Okay.
All right.
So start the next one?
Yeah, so whenever you're ready, you can go to the next application on the agenda.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. So then the next application is A28-22-PC in the matter of the Planning Act RSO 1990 CP 13 as amended and section 2.8. Oh,
The mic is on, so just a little louder.
okay. Oh, is this a little bit better?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll start from there. In the matter of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, CP 13, as amended, and Section 2.8.1A2 of the City of Port Colborne zoning bylaw 6575-3018 as amended. And in the matter of the lands legally known as Lot 10 and Part Lot 9 on Plan 44, in the City of Port Colborne, located in the first density residential zone, municipally known as 39 and 41 Lakeshore Road West, and in the matter of an application by the owner Andrew DeRiez for relief from the provisions of zoning bylaw 6575-3018 as amended, so as to permit the construction of an accessory structure, notwithstanding the following. One, that a maximum height of 6.553 meters be permitted, whereas 6 meters is permitted. A notice was circulated to the public on October 25th and required agencies on October 14th, 2022. As of today, the following comments have been received. The fire department has no objection to the proposed application. The drainage superintendent has no objection to the application. Engineering notes a lot grading plan is required for a building permit. A municipal consent permit will also be required for any work within the city's right-of-way, alteration to the existing entrance and/or construction of a driveway. Planning staff recommend the minor variance application A28-22-PC be granted for the following reasons. One, the application is minor in nature as the requested variances will not negatively impact the property or surrounding properties and the primary function is not changing. Two, it is appropriate for development of the site as it is in a suitable location and complies with the setback requirements of the zoning bylaw. Three, it is desirable and in compliance with the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw as the zoning bylaw permits accessory structures in the R1 zone and will be accessory in nature to the primary dwelling. Four, it is desirable and in compliance with the general intent and purpose of the official plan, as accessory structures are permitted in the urban residential designation. And that concludes the correspondence for this application.
Thank you. Is the agent or the applicant here this evening? If you'd like to come up to the side there. You'll see a little gray bar there, and there should be a red button right in the middle to turn on the microphone.
Okay.
Hello?
Is there anything further you'd like to add at this time?
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Thank you. Do any committee members have any questions of the applicant? Not seeing any. Is there any members of the public that wish to speak to this application this evening? Not seeing any. And we didn't have anyone else online, right? Correct. So with that, Eric?
I'm waiting for the Secretary Treasurer to make a resolution as well.
If you like, I can move it.
Yeah.
All right, I will move application A28-22-PC for the lands legally known as Lot 10 and Lot 9 on Plan 44, municipally known as 3941 Lakeshore Road West. That minor variance application A28-22-PC be granted for the following reasons. One, the application is minor in nature as the requested variance will not negatively impact the property or surrounding properties and the primary function is not changing. Two, that it's appropriate for the development of the site as it is in a suitable location and complies with the setback requirements of the zoning bylaw. Three, that it is desirable and in compliance with the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw as the zoning bylaw permits accessory structures in the R1 zone and will be accessory to the nature of the primary dwelling. And four, it is desirable and in compliance with the general intent and purpose of the official plan as necessary structures are permitted in the urban residential designation. Can I get a seconder to that, Eric? Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That'll be carried. Thank you.
Thank you,
There is
Council.
a 20-day waiting period for that, but other than that, you should be good to go. Yes, please.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Secretary, the next application, we haven't been able to get a hold of the other first
We
one.
have the first one. I just emailed him again just to, do we want him? Do
If
we
you can,
want to
if
go
you can,
back?
if you can bring them in now,
Okay.
before we forget about them.
So I just promoted him to panelist. Okay. So he should be in now. Yeah. So that's him. So it's, oh, yeah,
There you go.
there he's on.
All right, we're just going to go back to the first application, B2422 PC, which is 1053 Steel Street. So we have the agent for the applicant. If you're there, can you hear us?
Yes, I am, and I do apologize for my delay and lateness to the meeting. Somehow my calendar misrepresented my time here. Sorry about that.
No worries.
And I am here.
Just before you get started, you don't wish to withdraw or defer your application this evening?
I'd prefer if the committee would deal with it.
Very good. Is there anything you'd like to add at this time? You did miss the readout of the staff report. It was read into the record. I'm assuming you have a copy of it?
I do, and I've read it closely.
Okay.
And frankly, I have nothing to add other than I agree with the staff. I agree with the staff report and would ask that the committee approve the recommendation of staff.
Very good. Thank you. Is there any committee members that have any questions of the applicant? Donna?
You, Mr. Chair. I just went by yesterday and I noticed the sign. I'd been by a couple times, but yesterday the sign was down. Looks like it had just been driven over, so I assumed it had just happened yesterday. And when I got back home, it was too late to call to let anyone know to ask. But I'm assuming if you saw it up, it was up all the time.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I put the sign back up yesterday morning at 8:30.
Okay, so it must have fallen down because I think the truck that was in the driveway drove over it or something. That's great, as long as I know it got put back up.
Yeah, I don't know how something happened for sure, because I made sure after I heard that it had been knocked down before, it was driven into the ground very well. So yes, I did put it back up.
Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Eric, you have any questions?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm not sure if this would be better directed towards Chris, but if you look to I'm looking at the Severn sketch, and if you look to the south, there's a part 2, and it looks like there's a dotted line that goes across the property, like it goes east-west. What is that? Is there an easement of some sort? Because I didn't see it identified in the application.
If I might, I think it's an overhead utility wire.
So there's 2 utility wires? Because there's
I
one.
think they run across the backyards.
Because there's one wire that's identified as overhead utility wire, but that runs north-south. I'm looking at the one.
I see, lengthwise down the property.
That goes east.
I think that just differentiates between part 2 of the original plan, if I'm not mistaken.
So I just want to make sure there's not some type of easement, because that would affect potentially the building area of the future development.
That's, if I might, Mr. Chairman, that line, we've investigated it, and it doesn't represent any change in ownership at all. It is the boundary of the property is as shown on the plan in the dark black line.
So you can confirm that it's not an easement?
We can confirm that.
Okay, thank you.
All right, there's no other questions. Is there any members of the public that wish to speak to this application this evening? Not seeing any. With that, Donna?
I was just going to make a motion, that's all, sir.
All right. If there's nothing further that the applicant wishes to add, I will go to Donna for the motion.
We have
Thank
nothing to say.
In regards to application B, B24-22 PC, the lands legally known as Concession 2, Part Lot 29, municipally known as 1053 Steel Street, that consent application B24-22 PC be granted, subject to the conditions outlined in the staff report dated October the 7th, 2022, for the following reasons. The application is considered consistent with the provincial policy statement and conforms to the growth plan for Greater Golden Horseshoe, the regional official plan, the City of Port Colborne official plan, and will comply with the provincial zoning bylaw 6575-30-18 as amended.
Thank you. We have a seconder to that. Eric? Questions or comments? All those in favor? That'll be carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I apologize again for being late.
No problem. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
So with that, Madam Secretary, the third application this evening.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. So the next application is A31-22-PC in the matter of the Planning Act RSO 1990 CP 13 as amended and Section 2.8.12A, 2.8.1A2 of the City of Port Colborne zoning bylaw 6575-3018 as amended. And in the matter of the lands legally known as Concession 1, Lot 11 in the City of Port Colborne, located in the Hamlet Residential Zone, municipally known as 912 Silver Bay Road, and in the matter of an application by the owner John and Nat for relief from the provisions of the zoning bylaw 6575-3018 as amended, so as to permit the construction of an accessory structure notwithstanding the following. One, that a maximum height of 7.32 meters be permitted, whereas 6 meters is required. A notice was circulated to the public on October 25th and required agencies on October 14th, 2022. As of today, the following comments have been received. The fire department has no objection to the proposed application. The drainage superintendent also has no objection to the application, and engineering has no objection to the application. Planning staff recommends the minor variance application A31-22-PC be granted for the following reasons. One, the application is minor in nature, as the requested variance will not negatively impact the property or surrounding properties and will not result in visibility concerns. Two, it is appropriate for development of the site as it is located in a suitable location on the site. Three, it is desirable and in compliance with the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw as it permits accessory structures in the Hamlet residential zone, and the proposal meets the setbacks and lot coverage requirements. And four, it is desirable and in compliance with the general intent and purpose of the official plan, as accessory structures to residential uses are permitted in the Hamlet designation. And that concludes the correspondence of this application.
Thank you. Is the applicant or the agent for the applicant here this evening? Feel free to come on up to the front. There's a little red button there in the middle. Anything further you'd like to add at this time?
No, sir.
Thank you. Any questions of committee members of the applicant? Eric?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Chris, actually. Is it not a requirement that measurements be provided in metric as opposed to imperial?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Member Borgard. Typically it is. I think we must have just kind of thought of it a bit late on this one. I did notice that as well, but typically yes.
Oh, okay, just in the future, I think for consistency's sake, we should make sure that it be provided in a metric.
Donna, you have any questions? Thank you. Is there any members of the public that wish to speak to this application this evening? Not seeing any. With that, do you have any further questions or comments you have?
No, sir.
Not seeing any. Very good. Motion, Eric?
Is this application A31? Yeah. Okay, 1 second. It says A30 on here, but it's A31. An application A31-22-PC for lands legally known as Concession 1 Lot 11, municipally known as 912 Silver Bay Road. That minor variance application A31-22-PC be granted for the following reasons. 1, the application is minor in nature as the requested variance will not negatively impact the property or surrounding properties and will not result in visibility concerns. 2, it is appropriate for development of the site as it is located in a suitable location on the site. 3, it is desirable and in compliance with the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw, as the zoning bylaw permits accessory structures in the hamlet residential zone and the proposal meets the setbacks and lot coverage requirements. 4, it is desirable and in compliance with the general intent and purpose of the official plan, as accessory structures to residential uses are permitted in the hamlet designation.
Thank you. Can I get a seconder to that? Donna? Questions or comments? Eric?
I think I should also state out the condition as well.
Sure.
Is that correct?
You can amend your motion, yeah.
Amend my motion to include the condition that the owner replace the cracked septic tank lid prior to the issuance of the building permit.
Was that on that one?
Is it?
No, that's a different.
Okay. Sorry. Then I amend my motion to remove the condition.
Very good. Easy come, easy go.
I thought it was a different one.
That would be for the next application.
Donna, you have a question?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm with Eric because I've got, this says A30 22PC with that condition on it that Eric just read out. And you're telling me that it's application A31.
Correct.
Have it been added, was this added by mistake at the bottom?
No, the file name that you have is wrong. The application readout is correct.
Except for the...
You got 2 that are A30s and no A31.
And the condition does not apply.
So
The condition, wrong one too then, you're saying?
the one that you're looking at is for the next application. So Eric improvised and read it off of the planning report, right? Correct?
This one,
No,
this one
it's
says
in our resolution.
12 Silver Bay Road.
Sorry?
Address, right?
In the resolution that was provided to us, it is shown in there as a condition. But in the planning report, maybe it is not. I have to look. I think that belongs to a different, that condition is supposed to apply to a different application, but it was in the resolution by mistake.
Oh, I see.
So I moved that we remove that condition after I added it. We probably need a seconder on that.
It was a friendly amendment to be added. So.
Okay.
Donna, do you have another question?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay. So with that, just the 4 tests were in there. If there's no other questions or comments, all those in favor? Those opposed, will be carried. Thank you.
Okay, so the septic thing
Yeah,
was a mistake?
it's not on yours, no.
Okay.
You're good. Thank you. All right. And Madam Secretary, the next application, please, when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And also my apologies on the confusion on that, on the resolution there. So we will start on the application A30-22-PC In the matter of the Planning Act RSO 1990 CP 13 as amended and Section 11.3E of the City of Port Colborne zoning bylaw 65753018 as amended. And in the matter of the lands legally known as Concession 1 and Lot 10 in the City of Port Colborne, located in the Lakeshore Residential Zone, municipally known as 574 Wildwood Road. And in the matter of an application by the owners Mike and Marcia McCready for the relief from the provisions of zoning bylaw 65753018 as amended so as to permit the construction of an attached garage, notwithstanding the following. One, that a corner side yard setback of 3.19 meters be permitted, whereas 4.5 meters is required in the Lakeshore Residential Zone. So a notice was circulated to the public on October 25th and required agencies on October 14th, 2022. As of today, the following comments have been received. From the public in summary, Andrew Guzda from 586 Wildwood Road commented the minor encroachment at the northwest corner of the proposed building has no bearing on their property and they are in full support of the application. From Lloyd Rapani from 564 Wildwood Road commented that the application is minor in nature and the addition would only make a beautiful home more beautiful. They are in full support of the application. And then comments from internal and external agencies. The drainage superintendent has no concerns regarding the application, but noted a mutual agreement drain may have been completed over the property. City staff does not know if one is registered on title and is of no concern to staff as it is a civil matter. These comments are provided as additional information to the applicant. Fire department has no objection to the proposed application. Engineering staff notes a log grading plan will be required at the building permit stage and a municipal consent permit will be required for work within the city's right-of-way, such as alteration to the existing entrance and or construction of a driveway. The Niagara region, the regional staff does not object to the proposed application in principle as the proposal is consistent with the PPS and conforms to provincial and regional policies subject to the below condition and any applicable local requirements and provisions. That the owner replaced a cracked septic tank lid prior to the issuance of building permits. The comments provided today were summarized for the purpose of this meeting. For full comments, please reach out to the planning department. Planning staff recommends a minor variance application A30-22-PC be granted for the following reasons. One, the application is minor in nature as the requested variance will not negatively impact the property or surrounding properties and will not affect visibility within the site triangle. Two, it is appropriate for development of the site as it is in a suitable location and will not affect the property's drainage. Three, it is desirable and in compliance with the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw, as the zoning bylaw permits detached dwellings in the Lakeshore Residential Zone and permits the majority of zoning requirements. Four, it is desirable and in compliance with the general intent and purpose of the official plan, as detached dwellings are permitted in the rural designation. Subject to the following condition. One, that the owner replaces the cracked septic tank lid prior to the issuance of building permits. I also would like to note that the applicant did reach out to the region and I have received confirmation by email from the applicant that this condition has been fulfilled. The lid has been replaced. And that concludes the correspondence of this application.
Very good, thank you. Is the applicant or the agent for the applicant here this evening? Perfect. Is there anything further you'd like to add at this time?
Not this time.
Thank you. Any questions of the applicant? Eric?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to the applicant. So I noticed that the proposed addition is recessed back. I'm not sure how much. I can't really see the any measurements there, but I'm just wondering why, if there's any reason why you weren't able to have it in line with the existing dwelling.
So it is in line with the existing dwelling. It's only back about three feet.
Yeah.
So the elevation of the house the frontage of the house.
It's,
It'll not look like an addition. And since we had the property to do that with, that's why we pushed the house back, the garage back further. If I would have pushed it forward, I would have lost parking space.
the driveway is,
Driveway's already there.
yeah, it's nice, I'm just, so what parking space would you lose?
Parking space for, if I
There's-
pushed it forward, I would have lost parking space.
There's, okay, because there's 19.15 meters shown of the driveway. That's a pretty big driveway. Okay, I was just wondering, because if it was brought up forward, then the minor variance would be
Yeah,
less.
I did think about that. I wouldn't have to have gone through this, but it's just the way the house sits, and it's the angle of the fire lane 15 that's why I encroach upon it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting lot that you have.
Yeah,
It's not your typical lot fabric, to say the least. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Donna, you have any questions? Nope. Is there any members of the public that wish to speak to this application this evening? Not seeing any. We don't have anyone online. So with that, unless you have any further comments you'd like to add?
Mr. Chair, is my understanding after today I can take down the minor variance signs?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So with that, if you have no other questions, ask for a mover and a seconder. Donna?
In the application A3022-PC, the lands legally known as Concession 1 Lot 10, municipally known as 574 Wildwood Road, that minor variance application A30-22-PC be granted for the following reasons. Number one, the application is minor in nature, as the requested variances will not negatively impact the property or surrounding properties and will not affect visibility within the site triangle. Number two, it is appropriate for development of the site as it is a suitable location and will not affect the property drainage. Number three, it is desirable and in compliance with the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw, as the zoning bylaw permits detached dwellings in the Lake Shore residential zone and meets the majority of zoning requirements. Number four, it is desirable and in compliance with the general intent and purpose of the official plan as described, as detached dwellings are permitted in the rural designation.
Thank you. A seconder to that? Eric? With that being said, I'll throw it to staff. We're good with the condition being met? You have the letter and everything else, you're good?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, I do have it by email and it's filed.
Okay. The building department will probably still ask anyway when you go to it, so even though we're not going to make it a condition of this application, since you've already addressed the issue, but they'll probably ask anyway, so
Yeah.
if it's
And
not
through
done,
you, through you, Mr. Chair, to Eric, another reason I had to step it back was on the corner of the existing house, where I stepped it back, that's where the hydro comes into the house. And I would have had to reconfigure all the hydro to make it in line with the house. And also my water cistern is on that corner. And this house has to go on helical piers. So that's another reason I had to step it back.
I thought, can I give you back in the zone?
absolutely.
Okay.
I think in the sketch it shows that your cistern's in the front, like right next to the driveway.
Yeah,
Is that incorrect?
it's close to that. But because I have to put helical piers, the helical piers have to go down
Yeah.
to bedrock 15 feet down. And they didn't want to take a chance of hitting the cistern.
Okay.
All right, with that, if there's no other questions or comments, all those in favor? That'll be carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
There is a 20-day waiting period, but after that, you can start the process for your building permit.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
And Madam Secretary, whenever you're ready for the last application.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So for our last application, it is A29-22-PC in the matter of the Planning Act RSO 1990 CP13 as amended and Section 2.7B1 of the City of Port Colborne zoning bylaw 6575/3018 as amended. And in the matter of the lands legally known as Part Lot 11 on Plan 987 in the City of Port Colborne, located in the downtown commercial zone, municipally known as 136 West Street. And in the matter of an application by the owners Jacob and Nancy Dembeston for relief from the provisions of zoning bylaw 6575/3018 as amended, so as to permit the expansion of a legal non-conforming use. A notice was circulated to the public on October 25th and required agencies on October 14th, 2022. As of today, the following comments have been received. The fire department has no objection to the proposed application. The drainage department and engineering staff has no objection to the application. The planning staff recommends the application A29-22-PC be granted for the following reasons. The application meets the criteria for extension or enlargement of a legal non-conforming use under Section 45(2)A of the Planning Act, and it conforms to the requirements of the official plan of City of Port Colborne. And that concludes the correspondence.
Thank you. The applicant's the last guy standing or sitting. Feel free to come on up to the front there, please. The little red button in the middle. Perfect. Is there anything you'd like to add further to the report?
Nope. No, sir.
Thank you. Is there any questions of the applicant this evening? Not seeing any. There's no one here left in the audience for public comments, so I'll assume there's no public comments. So with that, the only question I have is with an extension of legal nonconformity, because it's a variance, we still don't have the 4 tests, right? We don't do these very often, so.
I can answer that to you, Mr. Chair. That's what I used to believe as well. Under our new manager, I was informed otherwise, so we just did correct our recommendation to make sure it was done by the Section 45(2) of the Planning Act.
Okay. We don't do the extension of legal non-conforming use very often, so.
No, yeah, so the 4 tests don't apply.
Okay.
Learn that.
I
know.
So with that, a mover and a seconder, Eric?
An application A29-22-PC for the lands legally known as Part Lot 11 on Plan 987 for lands municipally known as 136 West Street. That application A29-22PC be granted for the following reasons. The application meets the criteria for extension or enlargement of legal non-conforming use under Section 45, subsection 45(2)A of the Planning Act and conforms to the requirements of the official plan.
Thank you. Seconder to that, Donna. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That'll be carried. Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you.
All right. Going to our next item on our agenda, other business. Does anyone have any other business? Eric.
Through you, Mr. Chair, it's more of like an instruction to staff, I suppose. This application as well had, the last application just had imperial measurements again. This has been like, I've seen several now, not just today, just in general. And it is difficult to have to do the conversions. Well, it's not necessarily like I can do it, but I shouldn't have to. So please, during the process of the intake of these applications, I'd recommend that you make the applicants aware. And if they have to change it, they change it, but because I would hate to have to, I don't know, defer an application or whatnot just because of measurements.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I don't disagree. It's something that we need to be more mindful of. I think a lot of the reason it does happen is because we catch it at the building permit time. Like they'll apply for a permit with a certain sketch that's usually in feet, and the permit doesn't require them to have metric or imperial. So we catch it then, and then we tell them they need to apply for a minor variance. They use that same sketch. Sometimes it gets a little lost in translation, but yeah, we'll do our best to make sure that we can convert those.
Yeah, I know in just in my experience, so like architectural drawings are typically in feet. When you go for building permit, it's usually done in feet for some reason, but in planning, we always do it in metric. So it's just, I know it's one of those weird things. I guess it's just part of being Canadian. But it just, yeah, make it moving forward, at least for me. I mean, maybe Dan and Donna and Angie are more used to the imperial system, but it's really not for me. So.
Very good. Is there any other business? Just before we go to that, do we want to talk about December's meeting or the schedule for next year?
Yeah, we could.
Is there going to be a December meeting? I know we got an email saying that there wasn't going to be, but or is that still kind of in flux?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, and to the committee. So we did discuss with the department and the clerk's department as well. So the Committee of Adjustment meeting for December will be canceled. And then we will be having our first meeting with the new committee in January. And it will be on the third week. It'll just be for the January one, and then we are proposing to continue with the second Wednesday, but that agenda will be approved with the council. So.
Eric?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Were there any applications that were provided for December yet?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, to Eric, Member Eric. Anyways, sorry, you know what I mean. So we did receive one application, and they are aware of the December meeting, and they are okay with it being in January. Okay. So that was before they even submitted it officially and marked as complete. They were aware of the Committee of Adjustment meeting.
Is it a consent or minor variance? Do you know?
It's both. It's consent and a minor variance.
Okay, so the notice requirements are what, 14 days?
Yes.
Okay, so if we were to change it, or if we were to contact, if a meeting were to be held in December, there's still time for notice and everything to be completed, right? From staff's perspective, would that be still attainable if things were to change?
So.
Because I know you got to process it, and you got to do, you got to circulate and then provide the signs and whatnot. So I understand there's time on staff's part. Just want to make sure if things were to change, if that'd be possible.
Just quickly looking at the scheduling of it, we would be coming close in terms of internal circulations to agencies. But in technicality with the public to circulate it, we would be meeting that agenda there.
So I guess my question is, what would be like the what would be the deadline? So for you guys to be able to do this, if we won't have a December meeting?
If we don't?
No, if we were to have a December meeting, what would be the deadline for you to get everything moving?
It would be by next week.
By the end of next week? Or?
It would have to be a complete application by at least next Wednesday. And then we would be creating the public notices and circulating it to agencies by the end of next week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So with that, since we may or may not have a December meeting, I would make a motion, since we normally do our calendar at the end of the year, that the next meeting in January be the 18th for next year's meeting, and then on that meeting we can or if there's a December meeting, we can formalize the calendar for next year, or in the January meeting, you can formalize the calendar for next year. So with that, I'll make a motion that January 18th would be the next scheduled meeting pending a change to our current schedule going forward. So if I can get a seconder to that. Eric, questions?
Sorry, is January 18th what our typical date would be? The second?
It's the third Wednesday.
It's the third Wednesday instead of the second
Yeah,
Wednesday?
the second Wednesday would be the 11th.
Okay. Is there a reason why we're doing the third instead of the second?
Yeah. So we're doing the third Wednesday for January, only January, because of the new committee. We want to make sure that we have enough time to prepare for the new committee and then to train any new members, or I guess the whole committee as a whole, to make sure that everyone's on the same page, and then also ensuring that they know what to do for those meetings, what to review in the applications, and what their procedures are. So that's why we decided to push it back a little bit. We'll also be closed in December for the last week, so also giving staff time to process the applications and getting all the notices out before.
Okay. Donna, you have any questions?
No, I'm good, Dan.
All right, so with that, all in favor of the January 18th? That'll be carried. Thank you. So with that, I don't have any other business. Eric?
Through the chair, actually, maybe to Samantha, if you're able to send us maybe an invite on Microsoft Outlook, that way we can have it in our calendar. Similar to what our like our deputy clerk does for counselors. Just that way, I know, because we're so used to it being on a certain day. I don't want to miss it.
For sure. We will be doing some changes as well behind the scenes. So we're going to be starting to go with eScribe, so the same as councils. So hopefully communication will be a lot more smooth for the meetings. So we can put it in the calendars together on our websites, and then I'll also send the invite too, just to make sure everyone's on the same page for the meeting there. But
Yeah.
just to let you know.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. Any other business? Going once, going twice? All right. Can I get a mover and a seconder for the October 12th, 22 committee meeting minutes? Eric? Seconder? Donna? Questions or comments? All those in favor? That'll be carried. Thank you. And with that, I will adjourn this meeting. And if I don't see you all before the holidays, have a Merry Christmas. It's too early to say that. And a happy holidays. Have a good evening.